Welcome back to some professional StarCraft 2, the grand finals of IEM Intel Extreme Masters Katowice 2022. The culmination of a year of StarCraft 2 struggle has resulted in the two best players rising to the top. A story we've seen before, but I'm more than happy to see again, as these two, the only ones able to match one another in the past. Let me first introduce the reigning champion, the 2021 World Champion, the Italian Stallion. It is Jimmy Reynor, defeating, well, a laundry list of top-tier players in dramatic fashion to get here, but I think deservingly so. Of course, on the other side, we have the player who needs no introduction, but I have to justify my job somehow. He is undisputably one of the best, and vying for that #1 of all time slot. He's lost a single game to get to this point, beating Maru. And I could just stop there, but Rogue, Zest, and more. Not that it matters. He needs to lose 4 to lose this match. Of course, the finisher. It's Serral! I think if you are ENCE Esports, and if you are one of the 17 people in Finland, you can be more than proud, as Serral just keeps rising to the top and somehow pushing the ceiling even higher. But, historically, it is Reynor who has been his greatest challenge in the past. It takes a great Zerg to even threaten a great Zerg, it seems. It's been a bit since IEM Katowice. It is on the older patch, I know. I was reminded, I hadn't yet casted this, because I watched the match live. And it was so hyped, but I spoiled myself, of course. But it's been enough time that I was re-looking for inspiration. And, of course, it's the World Finals. I feel like, even if for some reason, and I mean, let's start the drama now. I hated these players, and I thought they were terrible, and they don't deserve to be here. There, I said it. I mean, if I was feeling that way, it's the World Finals. Unfortunately, they definitely deserve it. They're both ridiculously good, uncomfortably so. I want to get into the details of why, because it might not be what you expect. So, stay tuned. Keep your ears firmly glued to your headphones or earbuds, or for those people, or maybe like blaring on your phone in the middle of the subway or something else uncomfortable, because things are getting started, and there's so much to say and so little time to say it. Because the first Banelings on Pride of Altaris, Reynor has taken the gold base, and on Pride of Altaris, it is a full gold, 8 mineral patches. It's just a straight up increase instead of a trade-off. ZVZ, one of the only matchups where both players can kind of reliably take it, though Serral has played a more conservative game thus far. Brenda! This is quality of life patch, so that means, whoa, Banelings from Serral, get in. The oldest trick in the book, just wandering 2 Banelings into a mineral line, kills 6 drones. Opening things up. A few lings have gone down as well. This is before the Queen nerf patch, the no transfuse off a creep, so that is still on the table for both sides, but creep doesn't discriminate, remember. Another drone down. So despite a precarious position for both sides, they both built enough Lings and Banes that they shouldn't feel threatened except by those counterattacks, and that's why you try to push away the Overlords and other shenanigans of that nature. We're slowly but surely making it into the Roaches. Reynor will be the first to reach out and grab a lair. Another Baneling attack. 5 more Reynor. losing a surprising amount of drones to the most obvious trick in the book here. Serral just waltzing a handful of banelings in and killing the drones with the gold. And then, in typical Serral fashion, gets into the main, sees the lair, sees the +1 upgrading, sees the gases, sees the drone count. But can he see why kids love the taste of Cinnamon Toast banelings? It wasn't that funny. Serral would look at me and probably shake his head slightly and then move on with his life. He has more important things than to listen to me. The queen's trying to target Banes. The Ling's dueling it out. The roaches, a little bit of a stiffer target. Roaches on both sides. The dance begins. Banelings filing back behind the queens. A couple spines here. The drone count. Reynor down 6 drones. Serral has 3 bases, but he doesn't have the gold, so that creates an interesting split here because the gold mines 40% faster. It's 40% income with those less drones. So it's actually about even for now. A bunch more roaches for Serral, who doesn't have the lair done, just now finishing it. No roach speed, just sloaches here for Reynor. This seems to be intentional. He's essentially going all in. He does not have speed on the way. He's finished his +1 attack, has not started +2, hasn't added any drones for quite a while. Lings poking in. Serral, what is the roach count? 20 to 25. But coming up a ramp. The queens are on their way for what it's worth here. The roaches begin the exchange. The banelings, not going to kill the roaches, but soften them up. The lack of speed, though. Serral has played an essentially perfect game thus far. He's lost 0 drones. He has slightly more workers. He has his upgrades on the way. Reynor, did Reynor, whoa. Reynor canceled the lair earlier on here. I didn't even, wow, oh God. Now, of course, I missed that, and the intent was Serral missed that as well, but, oh, Serral's gonna come in, see a lair building, maybe do a double take, and quickly figure it out before I was able to meander my way through what has happened. Yeah, this is kind of a disaster right now for Reynor. Even though the supplies are... Brenda! Could you move? We don't need to wall out Zerglings anymore. Every roach is going to count for Reynor. I'm hard-pressed to see any sort of breakthrough potential. As at the moment, Serral just has slightly more of all the same stuff in a better position. He shotguns out some corrosive biles, hoping enough hit to soften up the Overlord. One of the more awkward parts of this matchup. Roach burrow +2 attack. Yeah, Serral sees the attack, realizes with +2, roach attack not completed. Why would you take the risk? Somehow both players' supply bot Overlord starting to go down as the creep spreads out. This is Reynor's creep, but really, once again, does not discriminate. It's whoever controls it. It's their creep now. Well, the Lings actually drew half the roaches away, Serral. Losing a handful. In any other matchup with any other players, I'd say like 4 roaches, okay, whatever. But right now, Serral is down 10 roaches. The Ravager count, non-existent for Reynor. That is a whole lot going on. Roach speed is about to finish. The queens joining into the fray. Some transfuses across the front line. Serral retreating to the high ground. Not quite able to hold it. Corrosive biles. Reynor with the okay splits. The concave coming in. Roach is looking to snipe the queens on the transfuse. Burrow move is complete, but there is an overseer. Another corrosive bile forces the army back. Micros the roaches on the right flank. And Reynor is driven down the ramp. The roaches from Serral will crush through. Upgrade advantage, burrow advantage. He has Ravagers to none. Reynor doesn't want to tap it out quite yet in game 1, but this is the invulnerable Serral. We saw that tiny mistake chasing Lynx. That's about it. That's all we can really point to show that he might be human. Otherwise, double kills an Overlord on the way by. Well, 2 Overlords by definition. Another set of Roach Ravager. Serral winning the fight on the right flank. Taking control of the watchtower. Keep tying up some roaches. The burrow move roaches drawing Reynor back. He just doesn't have enough. Veni, Vidi, Vici. I came, I saw, I dunked on. Reynor should know what it means. Italian is just like Latin with extra steps. Or less steps, I'm not sure. I'm making things up. But he's gonna have to go back to the spawning pool. And figure it out. It is at this stage. I mean, Reynor doesn't seem to get nervous. Have you seen the guy? It is impressive. So I don't think, especially on Pride of Eltaris, I don't think you can read too much into that game. It wasn't... he took a few risks. He made a couple mistakes. And, well, don't do it again. Don't lose 10 drones to Banelings. And don't cancel your lair for an ill-fated attack. Obviously, these are judgment calls that are impossible to make perfectly in-game. But Pride of Eltaris, I'm not surprised it was picked first. I don't know which player did. But it was picked first. Just get it out of the way, otherwise we're playing it for Game 7, and neither player really wanted to do that. That is what we ended up. Jimmy, can we actually hear the game, this game? I know. Talk softly and carry a big... No, that has nothing to do with cast. It doesn't make any sense. I talk at decent volume, and I carry the observer cam. That's it. Anyways. Serral is... Well, Serral looked at his spawning pool and said, I like it. Let's start with that. A 12 pool. Well, this is a best of 7. Truly. What do I mean? This is... I don't think Serral does this in any other scenario. Why would you take the risk? Berlingrad? So, I think part of it is he won game 1. Another part of it is on Berlingrad, the Overlords might end up going the wrong direction. Because there are 2 lanes in the middle of the map. So, you might be able to sneak your Zerglings by both of the Overlords. Because you know what has the same vision range? Now follow along. You know what has the same vision range as an Overlord? An Overlord. So his Overlords can see what the Overlords of Reynor will see. Or he could just not care. There's also that option. Because, alright, well, option 2, none of that. Here he comes! Option 2, he just goes for it. Speed is far superior to stealth. Says Serral, bringing enough drones to do the damage. Still mining with a handful at home, but he's got a couple spine crawlers banked up. The drone micro begins. More drones usually counters less drones. 2, 3 spines on the way. Oh, the mineral drill. Stacking all the drones. They can all technically attack once. If the lings or drones get close enough, you can have the Omni drone attack. The thing is, those spine crawlers are quite a time. Reynor has 12 lings on the way. He finished the hatch at the natural. He's going to try to break this before the spine crawlers do too much. Drones, the ling count is about even here. The spine crawlers are finishing. One is canceled, gets most of the money back and the valuable drone. We're just going to have to see how it plays out on the ground. Another one canceled at the last possible second. One spine crawler completes. Serral. So far, so good. It's 6 drones of Reynor to 7 drones of Serral, with a big asterisk that 4 of those drones... Oh, no! Oh, they unburrowed the spine! There's not creep there, which is... Oh, he got it! He caught the spine! And... Wait, he lets it go. Serral trying to regroup. The drones are getting involved. What's happening? But... Reynor has only 4 drones left. The spine crawler is wandering away. The slowest possible things off of creep. We have an Overlord, a Queen, and a spine crawler. Reynor now has only 4 drones left. But he does have 2 hatches, and Serral only has 3 drones mining, so it's not like there's a huge economy to fall back on. There is a transfuse, which in one of the few scenarios it might matter. I think he transfused a Zergling. Serral microing through the drones and the legs. Gets the queen! Reynor has 1/12 of the drones he started with. Serral outstripping his economy 3 times over. Reynor 3 Gs. Wow. That was the most technical brawl I may have ever seen. Both players just going at it. I mean, you don't have a choice. Serral brought most of his workers. Just enough to be building links. That's what he left at home. Just trickling links across. So, the only downside here is now Reynor's down 2-0. Which, in the semifinals against Big Gabe, shout out to Big Gabe. Well, you know how that ended, based on the fact Reynor's here in the finals. But Big Gabe went up 2-0. Reynor's here in the finals. So, we will see. Those are the game 1 and game 2. A little bit. Will Serral give him? Game 1 is about as standard as you could get, to be honest. I don't think they're going to 12 pull. Jimmy, the game! I don't think Serral or Reynor will 12 pull on Blackburn. Partially because the Overlords... Okay, so, follow me. The Overlords. You're welcome. But the Overlords get there so quick that cheeses can be scouted even more quickly. So... And, of course, I think Serral's played all his cards on that. This is the... Even in non-Zerg versus Zerg, the kind of cut the map in half, longer-term version. But why is Serral so good? I think there's a distinct difference from Reynor, actually. It is the most boring stuff that Serral's good at. A lot of people don't really think about what makes players good, especially Zerg players. Because almost all the stuff that the very best Zerg players do is stuff that when we're casting, you're never paying attention to. It's making sure you're rallying your overlords to the right locations quickly. It is using your larva to not waste any of the natural larva regeneration. It's consistent injects even while doing anything else on the map. It's efficient creep tumor spread. If I sound like a economics 101 professor who has also a part-time job and putting his students to sleep, that is why a lot of people don't think of Zerg as they see the results of these things. And they're like, well, just a move. No, there's a lot of detail that goes into it. And that is, I think, partially why Serral is able to maintain this edge that he seems to have. Because you can always be a little bit more efficient with Zerg. Like, just put it in comparison to Terran and Protoss, especially Protoss. Like, a lot of Protoss comes down to just micro of the army and reading their opponent well. There's only so much nuance with Chrono Boost, for example. Same kind of goes for Terran, where your production is quite rigid, where you need to build a barracks and then a reactor, and then it takes X amount of time. You don't have the flexibility of larva. But at the same time, that's why when Zerg players slip at all, it seems like they kind of just get ground down. Because you have to keep up on all these things while actually pretending to micro your army at all. But the macro can be hundreds of APM in and of itself. Reynor is no slouch at it, but Reynor is actually a micro player for Zerg, which is somewhat rare. at least is not the focus. It's not like Serral's micro is bad, but it really comes down to that just perfect efficiency. And, of course, being able to make the right decision almost instantaneously. Well, we got a little role reversal. Did you know there's a gold base on Blackburn? Usually we don't point that out so early. But, yeah, Reynor has spotted it. Serral knows there's a gold base. Reynor also knows there's a gold base. For Serral, what's the play? Do we make a bunch of Zerglings and try to pressure it? Lings and Banes? Jimmy? Don't interrupt me. I'm casting. Ling Bane casting is a little bit of like... Oh, there you go. 1 Bane for 2. Good trade. It is impossible to tell exactly how well it'll go. Another Bane comes in. So far, decent connections for Serral. Enough to whittle down the Ling count to the point that he's able to defend the third. Reynor behind this, he was using this as cover for drones. Serral surely knows that. He's very aware. Brings the Lings up. Reynor's Overlord actually wandered a little too close. Ah! Details. And 1 Overlord can definitely slow you down. It's not going to supply block Reynor, but he managed to get 43 drones behind it. And even without a gold base, that's going to give him a lead, assuming he can keep them. Serral has 5 roaches on the way. He's hiding them behind his wall here. What has Reynor seen? He hasn't even seen the roach one. Oh, a couple Banelings. Only get 2 drones. Reynor is going up. Okay. He's getting 5 more. I think he's just now. Oh, yeah. The Overlord spotted the roaches. The alarms are going off right now. He retreats the drones. He's already evacuating the third. It's a lost cause. Serral has committed too much, and there's not enough defense. Banelings crashing in, hit a bunch of the larvae there. The gold base, Reynor with a small amount of Zerglings, able to get a lot done, and force Serral to evacuate down to 26 drones. Roaches for Reynor. And Queen holding the line. A couple the Banelings in the front doing enough. The Roaches trickling through. The Spine Crawlers, the Queens did all they could. But the Roaches are going to have to come out and save the day. Banelings rolling towards the mineral line. He actually just goes for the Spines, trying to use them to tank as much damage for the Roaches as possible. Gets some drones. Gets a Queen. Reynor still has a 17 drone advantage. He has to live. He must live. The Spine Crawler is holding. Serral losing some of his roach advantage here. Reynor still has that third. Oh my god, Reynor killed the hatch. Serral, he pulled the trigger on an all-in. Reynor killed his third base with the 8 or so Zerglings as Serral was tunnel visioning. So far, defense seems like... I was about to say defense seems like the place to be, but Serral won with a 12 pull in the last game. I mean, it was worth a shot. I think that had a lot of potential to do the damage, but Reynor, instantaneous reaction. Evacuate the third. Multiple Spine Crawlers. Queens in the wall. Everything pulled off the line. And he barely holds. As Serral just not able to get enough done. Well, it's not going to be a sweep. Not that... I don't know why Serral felt obligated to do the all-in. Maybe it was just... like maybe the gold base... that was the intent all along. The gold base can draw out a lot of aggression. And then... once they finally start to... and Reynor almost died. Like... once they try their first wave of Zerglings, you hit them with the roaches... and you might catch him droning. Almost. But not this time. And some... even the first game. These are like 9-minute games. 9 minutes, 3 minutes. I believe that was 6 We're speed running the finals. But if there ever was a map to turtle on, or to play a longer match, well, it'd be Abyssal Reef. But that's not in the map pool. So I give you, on the other hand, I give you Hardwire. I miss Abyssal Reef. Not for the turtling the 4 bases part. The, it was very pretty. And I like how the units go up into the sky. And also, I'm sick of 2,000 atmospheres, but I don't want to get rid of the fun physics on it. So, there are plenty from the map contest that actually have utilized that extra fun feature. Nope, that was the end of that entire thought. There, that's it. Moving on. I think this is where we see the longer game. I'm not sure what late game ZVZ really looks like, because we haven't even gotten to the Muta face. The Mutalisks. One of the most dangerous creatures, but also one of the riskiest. As when you decide to try that Muta switch, you either want to have map control or hide it as long as possible. Now, occasionally both players will have the same idea at the same time. This is more of a, we can't kill each other, and I think I can get mutas out before you come across the map situation. Thing is, mutas don't do that much damage to roaches. So there's always this awkward kind of purgatory where you might have 5 mutas, but that's not going to stop 25 roaches from bashing down your front door and demanding to see your drones. Salivating all over everything. The same is true for many mirror matchups. It's just the most clear, the contrast in ZVZ, because Queens are essentially your early game anti-air. In Terran versus Terran, you have Marines, Vikings. In Protoss versus Protoss, I mean, just Stargate and Stalkers in general. But on the field, and that's why, Jim, can we get the, that's why Zerg versus Zerg is a lot of the time, since the Overlords can just see everything going on, you have to hide until the last possible second your actual move. Or at least understand they're going to see it. Because without the Queens, you have no way of driving them away. Kind of keeps players honest up to a point. Baneling Nest, 10 lings for Serral. Skirmishlings. These are kind of the lings you build, so that way you don't get caught by them building lings. Sometimes this battle escalates into an all-out Ling Bane war, but at the highest level, and I think we can all agree, this is the highest level. It will just be used to try to scratch out a few more drones. If you're a little more efficient, you might get some of his drones, or at least keep map control and force out lings, and that allows you to switch into your own drones. At the lower levels, and by that I mean like North America, Ling Bane can be a means to an end in and of itself, where one Baneling can potentially end the game. But that shouldn't happen here. Well, one Baneling waddled into the mineral line is making a lot of drones feel very uncomfortable right now. But 2 Banelings are infinitely more scary. Queens push away one of the Yovis, making things a bit more ambiguous. Roach Warren on the way. The drone count, Serral down a handful. He did try that early Zergling aggression. Reynor didn't build Zerglings till later on, so not only did he use his larva on drones more, but he used them earlier. So those drones have been mining. And that's the little advantages you get if you're able to keep up on the Ling Bane micro. even if Serral overtakes him slightly in drones, Reynor will still have the advantage for a while because he's still feeling the benefits of those drones he built earlier. A single spine crawler. I feel like Reynor's feeling quite comfortable. The spine crawler to me is not a sign that Reynor feels threatened. It's a sign he knows he's ahead. Because one spine crawler is only one larva used. The rest can go into whatever he needs. Serral losing a clutch of Zerglings. Now, underneath the count, you really need to do any damage. Couple Banelings. Yep. The zone defense here from Reynor is very good. 58 drones apiece. Handful of roaches coming across. Serral feigning heavy aggression. Notice he's coming in with the Zerglings at this time. Reynor looking away, but maybe just me looking away. Reynor was looking to... Oh my god. He settles for 2. I mean, better than 1. And there it is. Reynor looking to compound his map control with Mutalisks. Serral, though, a spire of his own. Nearly half a spire build behind. If it's 20, 30 seconds, maybe you can work around the edges. It's not a huge deal. This is a distinct advantage. This is one of the best case scenarios. Is 1, they go mutas. 2, after you with less money. It's like driving with a better car. There's not much solving that situation. He spots the spire. Serral has some very difficult decisions to make. He knows the spire was spotted. His Overseer's coming in, but the mutas will be fully operational when the Overseer arrives. We may be in that very slightly middle ground scenario where there's enough roaches for Serral to potentially do damage. No, we're not. We're not. Reynor has more than enough. He's got 10 less roaches, and he's got mutas out. Oh! You know what I forgot exist in this matchup? Corruptors. Serral is gonna make do with what he has. This is turning your shovel into a hammer situation. It's not the ideal tool for the job, but you work with what you got. He's got a spire, and that's his anti-air. So Corruptors do trade well with mutas, but mutas are faster, they cost less, and in large numbers can actually still win because of their extra glaives. Depends a little on the upgrades. Yeah. It isn't just a direct counter here. He gets one. Reynor wants to shave off as many of the Corruptors as possible. Another point is the Corruptors don't really do anything else but counter the mutas. Technically, you can use that caustic spray to damage buildings. Technically. Though Spore Crawlers do extra damage to biological air, of which there's one race with biological air. So it feels a little targeted. So even a single spore makes it difficult not just for mutas, but for Corruptors as well. Mutas heading towards the main. It's going to hit whatever they can. The Corruptors have to stay grouped up or they'll be isolated and killed. Serral has survived because with these Corruptors, he's made it impossible for the mutas to do critical damage. Reynor's just fighting. He's trying to leverage that economy. He has 10 more drones and map control. Roach is on the way. He's just building more mutas. Neither side building any of the air weapons upgrades. A handful of roaches. Some Zerglings in the third. 5 drones down. Larva is at a premium right now because they both have the income to spend their money. But they may not have the larva to do so. Five more Corruptors. Reynor is not flinching on the Mutalisks. He's got 6 more in production. What is the count right now? This is the largest amount of air units on either side without Vipers. I doubt we'll see it again, but if that corrosive bile hits, I mean, it could help. Very unlikely. Corruptors isolated. The roaches from Serral heading out. A handful, by a handful, I mean a very large hand of Zerglings. The battle in the skies. Mutas versus Corruptors. Zerglings into the natural. Corruptors still fighting the Mutas. Reynor decides to pick that fight. There's more Zerglings in the main. Serral not able to plug all the gaps. Zerglings streaming through. Roaches will overrun Reynor. What is happening in the skies? 12, 11 Corruptors to 15 Mutas. It looks like Serral's slowly stabilizing here. The Corruptors are winning the fight over time. But at what cost? Well, Reynor's actually lost a lot more gas. It's been 20 Corruptors to 30 Mutas lost. They both cost 100 gas. Corruptors are just 50 more minerals. Well, some transfuse. The roaches create an interesting pickle here. Zerglings on either side. Reynor in a semi-base trade with Zerglings streaming into the third and the natural. There was one Baneling ready, but that's not going to be enough to stop all these Zerglings. The Spore Crawlers, though, definitely something to consider. Serral, where are your Corruptors? The Corruptor count doesn't seem to be high enough. +1 flyer attack isn't yet done. It's just going to tilt further in favor of Reynor, who continues to stream in. They're both quite high in the APM, but Reynor approaching 4 digits. The Zerglings on etc. every base. Serral scrambles back to defend. He had a time to push forward. It was almost enough, but it's now double the Mutas to Corruptors, and they have +1 flyer, which definitely makes it easier to pick them off. Queen down. The Corruptors have to at least kite back for what they can. They cannot outfly the Mutas. Reynor overrunning on the ground. Evo Chamber, a very temporary wall. Zergling streaming into the main yet again. And Reynor has run the table here. It just is not enough. Serral scrambling, but there's not enough units to go around. All tied up 2-2. Jimmy, no! It was nothing like that. Well, one of the most interesting games, as Serral kind of, you can't back down. You can't just sit back and try to, I don't even know, well, obviously you can't build Mutas if they already have Mutas. You're going to lose. But at the same time, you do need anti-air because the Muta count's going to get out of control. He's going to be on 4 bases. So, I think the Corruptors actually ended up being the best call in a series of bad ones. Reynor just... And I mean, good luck keeping up. Game. 5. No pools. On glittering ashes. Another almost painfully standard map. It's a best of 5 now. Nope, best of 3. Okay, can I count? 3. Yes. We're tied up at 2-2. Serral has now lost twice as many games as the rest of the tournament. So that, I don't know. I remember seeing before IEM, he re-signed with his team Ents, which I'm sure they were in a hurry to do. And they had like an interview where Serral, in his usual very pragmatic commentary, was asked, how do you feel about IEM Katowice? What would be a good result for you? To which Serral replied, I think I don't want to do worse than in the past, so I guess that means winning. So that's a pretty high bar. Does not leave himself much wiggle room on that one. Reynor, on the other hand, always leaves himself wiggle room, because how else are you going to get the Zerglings in the base? Very standard. Yeah, Serral a big fan of the just win strategy, which he executed almost flawlessly throughout this tournament. To the dismay of, well, anyone who hates Zerg, so mostly Diamond Terrans, but a surprisingly outspoken demographic. Unsurprisingly, I'm sorry. Reynor has been quite active on shutting down those overlords. Serral has taken whatever's close, but I think Reynor, that's a little more his style, is trying to hide. Oh my god! Brenda, no! Get on! No! Ah! The queens body blocking. Wait, the Lings body blocking the queen. Serral boxes out for long enough for the overlord to comfortably escape, and even gets out with one of the Lings. Wow. Just stiff arms the queen. Don't try this at home. Serral finishes speed half a second quicker. Let's read into that. Reynor slipping. Reynor does have one more drone though, so. +1 ranged attack immediately for Reynor. He doesn't have a Roach Warren yet, but it's... Occasionally you'll see a big Zergling, like +1 melee or even Carapace. But I don't think against just a nice, safe Roach build, you're going to find much success in a gamble like that. Yeah, Reynor just adds on the Roach one. Only adding it on by the point he actually wants to make the Roaches. Efficiency. Because you know when a drone becomes a Roach Warren, it no longer mines minerals. That's a fun fact right there. That one's free. Someone's been... Whoa! Oh my god, Reynor! Reynor... Oh, it was... The queens are too thick, and that means the roaches would have been. Reynor actually misplaced his Roach Warren slightly and had to cancel and restart it, which means I think it's going to be... It should still be on time with his lair. But that's the kind of tilting mistake that can spiral. Oh my. Walling off is for Protoss. I don't know why we do it. Because of Zerglings. It's the same reason. Okay. Reynor starts +1 melee? Wait, what? Reynor canceled +1 ranged and his Roach Warren, then rebuilt the Roach Warren, canceled, and then started melee attack. He's meandering throughout the tech tree, whereas Serral, on the other hand, did enjoy that Mutalisk play from Reynor and decided to try it for himself. I don't know how much is mistakes and how much is reacting to information. He saw the Spire, but that was a while back. Infestation pit on the way means infestors and maybe a rush to Vipers as a way to deal with Mutas. So this is going to be an even greater split in the tech tree. Instead of just both trying different sides of the Spire, Reynor is going to try to deal with it on the ground. Overseer taken out, but somehow Serral gets a Zergling in. Serral not even building Mutas, just building Roaches. Oh my god. He's not even bothering. He knows Reynor scouted the Spire. Of course, you do need enough to zone out the Zerglings, but will Reynor realize this isn't... he's banking up money. He may very well go Mutas. But he's holding off until... Corrupt... Okay. I think we are deep into the mind games right now. Maybe Serral assumes that Reynor is going for a Spire, and thus he's building Corruptors to preemptively counter his Spire. But Reynor just gave up on not just Spire, but Roaches. So these Corruptors, all they're really going to be able to do is try to melt buildings. So honestly, Serral, I think, he's building 10 Overlords. All right, calm down, Elaser. He doesn't even need 10 more Overlords. They're both thinking so hard. The battle in the production tab right now is... Double Lurker Den. Queens pulled. Reynor is... Serral somehow has outmaneuvered himself into a disadvantage. Though, the Corruptors are a threat to the buildings as there's not that much anti-air. The Queens are nowhere to be seen. Hydra's coming back to the main. The fourth base is vulnerable. Zergling's trying to cut off reinforcements. Hydra's zoning out the Corruptors. Fourth base down. So that calls it even. The Corruptors are going for the hatch! They're gonna start melting it! The HP dropping precipitously! Some of the Roaches cutting off the Queens! Serral melting through Transfuse, not enough! So the Corruptors honestly finding about as much value as Mutas may have. Though I guarantee you, if he knew exactly what Reynor is doing, Corruptors would not have been the call. He's making... do with what he has. Serral trying to come up. Brenda, this is not the fight! Listen to her! Whoa, the Lurker Den. 10 more seconds on Caustic Spray. Oh my. If the Lurker Dens die to the Corruptors, which is not a sentence I think I've ever said before. Every part of it, really. My god. Oh, come on. Oh, what is this? He got both. He got both upgrades. He got both Lurker Dens, but I think Reynor's okay. He's got 15 Lurkers, which should tide him over with double upgrades. Yeah, there's... Oh my god, shredding... I'm sorry, shredding Serral. Meanwhile, Reynor has Zerglings all over the place. What happened? Serral, in a completely uncharacteristic fumble here, he had all the advantages. Reynor was actually tripping over himself. And honestly, this game, for no other players, I think, I would say this. But we're at this level of Reynor may have screwed up his own build so much that Serral assumed he was going for Spire. Like, the Roaches were so late because he screwed up the Roach Warren that Serral just, based on the available information, thought he was going Spire. And thus made the Corruptors, which there were no Mutas to counter, and Corruptors just... very expensive to counter buildings, especially if they don't even counter the buildings. So that, on the back of one of the most technical games, I think that game was almost entirely fought in the production tab in the fog of war. What? I think we need to pull it. We need a good old-fashioned cheese to pull it back. We're thinking too hard now. Maybe Reynor needs to keep screwing up his Roach Warren and throw Serral off. That's the world champion level strat here in the IEM Katowice finals. And just like that, I mean, there was a significant amount of steps. Reynor has turned a 2-0 into 3-2. No two games, even very similar, not let alone the same. This has been the most dynamic Zerg versus Zerg I've ever seen. Well, we'll see. I have no predictions. I don't feel comfortable making any. Whatever happens next, Serral, no stranger to high-pressure situations. There's been so many 4-3s either way with Reynor over the years. And they've all been this dramatic and almost uncomfortably high level. Because ZVZ is kind of that talk softly and carry a big stick sort of matchup. You're just hiding the stick till the last second. It's like, no, I'm totally not going to beat you over the head with these corruptors. It's like, oh, you have corruptors then? Well, that's interesting because I don't have anything they counter. So that's kind of an odd choice, sir. $2,000 atmospheres. Bit of a more mid-game map, but still very much can go late. We haven't seen any games truly explore the hive tech. Those were the first lurkers. There was a little bit of burrow move in game 1, but we're not seeing too many of the staple ZVZ unit compositions. The games are all ending at these kind of weird timings with either the early all-ins or some sort of crazy tech swing. It feels like they're not fighting with the same deck in any of these matches, despite the mirror match. Third base, triangle third. Honestly, I'm not sure why this is the pick in this matchup. Usually you pick the further out third against Terran and Protoss, at least especially against Terran, so that way you don't have two bases vulnerable to drops from a single angle. And it's slightly further on the ground, but they've both chosen that low ground third. Queens being pulled forward. Maybe trying to drive back some overlords. I mean, for you Zerg players actually looking to learn, by the way, the IEM Katowice replays publicly available. You can literally just copy and paste the overlord placements of these two. Overlords are the only unit that Serral, Reynor, and you are all capable of controlling at the same rate, I think. I wouldn't trust myself or you with probably any other unit. But Overlords, I think we can pull that off. At least the first few. One of the few things that you can directly just copy from these two. Lair started for Reynor. Slightly quicker. +1 was the priority for Serral. +1 ranged attack is a significant boost to those roaches. That's why so many timings revolve around it. It allows you to kill Zerglings in one less hit. It goes from 3 to 2. And roaches, I believe, take 2 less. Although I couldn't quote you on exactly how many. since weapon upgrades scale with the damage each attack does, and roaches do a pretty significant amount, that's where it really kicks in. The Carapace upgrade, on the other hand, is nice against Banelings and as an all-purpose, but it's more expensive and only adds 1 armor, which does not negate most of the advantage of the +1 attack. And that is why usually, as Zerg, you prioritize those attack upgrades. Spire for Reynor. Roaches for Serral. Drones for everyone. Reynor up to 62 drones. He's technically getting +1 and speed. But Serral has been building up roaches significantly quicker. He's building 5 more Ovies. Ooh, quite a supply block for Serral, to be honest. This is slowing down. He has some larvae in the bank as he's waiting for the supply block. Reynor not going to be able to bank up too much gas. Oh, do you not have any unit? He's drone drilling a little. 4 drones. Oh, the Banelings! They come in and throw themselves on the other Banes to block for the Zerglings. Serral's at 52 drones. Reynor has mutas on the way, building roaches, but Serral has pulled out another card. The Nidus Network. He's not being subtle about it. There's no time for caution. He understands that he should not have done that much damage. It's very likely to be mutas. The mutas show up, start tickling the roaches, but for now it's just a deep tissue massage. The queens, not first through the Nidus, actually, a little awkward. But they will pop out and provide some anti-air. Might even bring some drones for spores. Not that it's particularly needed. Trying to break through the front. The roach count is devastatingly low for Reynor. The queens are doing any amount of damage to mutas, and that's what matters. The queens at the front, and Reynor has to tap out. Serral brings it to the final match. Game 7 in another technical knockout. They just keep landing hits on each other. None of these games, like, I think we had one over 10 minutes. That was 7 minutes. 7 minutes. Another kill. Well, we'll see. We're trying to fill some time. We had 3 hours scheduled for the finals, guys. It hasn't even been won. Hey, alright, at least it's Reynor. Serral would have 4-0'd anyone else. Probably true. Sorry, Big Gabe. Well, to decide who is the best player in the world. And, oh yeah, the drama. I think either way at the end of this, Serral joins the millionaire list of winning over $1 million in StarCraft 2 with Rogue and Maru also joining that list with IEM Katowice, despite not as far a finish. The question is, who's out in first? Reynor was literally too young to compete for several years. If you remember, not too long ago, there was an age requirement in WCS of 16. Just for many reasons, but Reynor turned 16 near the end of the season. I believe it was 2017. He needed to win the WCS because he didn't have the chance to compete in the rest of the year. Only way he could get to the finals at BlizzCon was to win the whole tournament. And guess what he did? He lost 4-3 to Serral in one of the most dramatic series, ZVZ, of all time. IEM Katowice 2022. Game 7. You can't script it any better than this. Some somewhat awkward games to get here, but that doesn't change the fact we're here now. One more time. In the bottom right. Some might argue he's the greatest StarCraft 2 player of all time. This game will add fuel to that already strong fire. Serral. On the other hand, making a strong case for himself, still not as consistent, but sometimes looking even more powerful than the finisher. Showing us the limits of StarCraft 2, Zerg, and charisma. It is the Italian stallion. It's Reynor. So, no 12 pulls. I think both these players... that was a huge gamble in Game 6. Like, the Nidus, it's an educated gamble. It's a calculated risk. It wasn't like he just threw it out there and hope it stuck. He was ahead. He had map control. He had the roach count. And he had the economy to back it up. So Serral going for the Nidus wasn't some sort of Hail Mary. But it was a gamble. If it got caught immediately, if it was shut down, then he would have been not out, but definitely behind. So far, the series has been one of calculated gambles. Is there anything, any strategy you're willing to risk the World Championship and $100,000 or so on, which is about the difference between first and second? I don't know exactly what it is, but it's enough. Imagine right now. So Serral went 10-0 in the group stage. In his entire group of the best players in the world, 10-0. I go 10-0 on the ladder, and that is probably the best day of my StarCraft life. 10-0 against the best in the world. So I don't really think I can have much perspective. It's impossible to imagine. But now it's not 10 games. It's not 5 games, not 7 games. It's one single game for the World Championship. Like $100,000. And, of course, there's the whole storyline for both of these players as well. If Reynor wins this, Serral is no longer the undisputed king, I think. And, of course, there will always be disputes, but Serral just seems to always come in clutch. It changes the story a lot. And even now, the king bleeds, as Reynor took 3 matches. And some of them looked like Serral was shaken. But you don't get here if you scare easily. Well, the Zergling's poking up. The most conservative, safe macro openers you can possibly have. That's part of why we did and continued this whole dramatic intro, besides how dramatic it is. But just enough Zerglings to box out the early Ling Bane aggression. How does Serral always get in? And then walling off into Roaches with +1. Layers at nearly exactly the same timing. Drone count within a handful. +1 ranged attack 10 seconds apart. So, for Game 7 it appears we're lining up. And we're just going to start having it out. No sneaky spire, no Nidus network, no early roach timing. It's just all out roach and maybe Ravager And then, well, we'll see where we go from there. Neither player willing to take any risks here. $66 to 65 drones. Serral fixing that. 66 drones. Full 3-base saturation. Supplies nearly identical. Serral catches up in those upgrades. Will he start +2 immediately? He starts a second Evo. An interesting... I mean, that's the only thing that's different so far, so we gotta point it out. Though he hasn't started +2 attack. +2 attack begins for Reynor. A changeling scampers in. See if Reynor spots it. No. Actually gets a scout on the whole third without committing the Overseer. Serral starts +2/+1. That's the advantage he's... Oh, wow. The changeling, the real MVP here. Reynor's scared of a Nidus. Brings some roaches back to the main. Look at the spread on the Ovies. Here's Reynor's vision. And now here's Serral's. Reynor winning on that count. But he's got a very good idea of what Reynor can and can't do. He scouted all the creep. It's not a Spire. Roach Ravager. What is the count? 29 to 22, but a couple more Ravagers for Serral. And he is much closer to his, well, his hatcheries. Serral opting for Burrow with Tunneling Claws. He's going all... Okay, there's the Spire for Reynor. But both players are going to be on a high enough economy that any of these tech choices is just to get an edge, not potentially a game-winning one. They're just not capable of killing each other quite yet. Serral starts working on that vision. Knowledge is power, especially when these relatively clunky armies are moving around the map. Maybe somebody will take down the double rocks in the center, which rarely happens. Speed Overseer will actually confirm the Spire when it's about 2/3 of the way done. And then he might be able to stay alive long enough. Not quite. Oh, I take it back. Maybe I shouldn't talk. Starts a Hydra Den. Yeah, we're at high enough economy that Hydras become a choice. This isn't a Spire rush. Overlords all over the place. Dropper Lords is... Oh my god. So right now, we're sitting at a balmy 400 APM. That won't last. For both sides. Jimmy! We have our own! And was that Terran music? Why? 11 mutas on the way. Serral with the most technical ground army you could possibly have, but Reynor's adding on the mutalist for himself. The first fight, half the roach is not here. Mutas are popping out. Serral's spraying the corrosive biles, getting whatever sort of good engagement angle he can. He finished +2/+1. That Carapace upgrade actually quite helpful against the mutas. Corrosive bile, though, not enough to drive back the mutas. Easily fly over on the chase. Reynor with an unnecessarily complicated split. The Dropper Lords are heading in towards the main. Mutas. The roaches dodge into the ground where the mutas can't quite hit them at this point. Burrow move roaches in the main with a Dropper Lord standing by. Transfuse for Reynor. Holding it together for now, but Serral will retake the initiative. There's a huge APM requirement in dealing with this. Also executing it. This is some of the most technical stuff in StarCraft. It's very easy to lose track of so much of this. Whether it's the mutas, the drops, the roaches, the ravagers, corrosive bile, and of course, you know, macro in general. The Hydras add a lot of damage, but they are fragile if the roach line goes down. Meanwhile, back in the main, Serral still doing damage and forcing the drones off the line. He does have a maxed out army, all balled up in the center. The muta's looking for an opportunity. Reynor, not having the critical mass of roaches, is driven off his third. And Serral takes it out. Reynor still has a huge army supply. A lot of it is in those mutas. 14 supply of mutas. Doesn't sound like a lot. Needs to start killing the overlords. It's enough that the Hydras have to be careful, and they don't have speed done yet. Reynor pressing the issue. Is there a lurker den for Serral? There is not. Infestation pit on the way, though. Thinking about Hive, one Viper could definitely turn the tides in either direction. I don't think Reynor's really in a position to do so, though he's maintained... It's 63 to 59 drones, so it's not a huge economic lead, though Serral's starting to bank. Corrosive Bows open things up, force the Hydras back. Not enough units here for Serral. Half of them in the center of the map, so Reynor will win the start of the fight now. Going to be forced to retreat up to the high ground. Corrosive Bow looking good. Lurker Den starts. Serral, Hive on the way. Reynor still fighting without a maxed out army. Trying to feign strength while he recovers back at home. Not making any drones, just roaches. Meanwhile, Muta's in the fourth. Pick off a drone, but the Spore Crawler will zone them out for now. Bro move roaches all over the place. Another Corrosive Bile lands and softens up a handful more roaches. The spores had to be built for Serral, which is essentially killing a few more drones. Meanwhile, center of the map, Corrosive Biles exchanged. Microing back. The Muta's in the main. The Queen... Of all the places, Brenda! To the main! The Lurker Den itself vulnerable. Burrow move roaches into the natural and the third. Meanwhile, roaches in the third, we'll call it the fourth of Serral. I think that's more accurate. Most of the army heading forward. Reynor holding on for now. Cleaning up the roaches, which are living up to their name. So difficult and annoying to kill. 10 drones down. The Mutas have paid for themselves in just the amount of time Serral has had to come back and pay attention to them. Now, both of them are taxing less the actual army supply and more their opponent's attention span, which they literally are the best at. Meanwhile, the Ravagers have to go up the ramp. Lurkers are building for Serral. The Lurkers uncontested right now. Only Corrosive Bile is the option, which is not reliable in the least, especially once they get range. Not the ideal scenario for Reynor here. A Hive Tech advantage for Serral. The Lurkers are spotted. I mean, he saw the Lurker Den and the Hive in the main. So Reynor gonna try to catch as many as he can out of position. But these roaches are about to have a meet and greet with a bunch of spines they cannot deal with. The Lurkers? Does Reynor? Oh, he gets nothing. Oh, beautiful split to negate the Lurker damage there. It was so subtle, but so well done. He keeps most of those roaches alive. The Corrosive Bow's trying to land on the Lurkers. It's not going to be enough as Serral closes in and collapses on most of the Roach Ravager. Meanwhile, a single Lurker forcing the end of mining at the fourth for now. Just an advance. Oh, the cleaning bot even takes a hit. Finally. The Mutas show up to the party. Immediately murdered. Not a fun party. Lurkers on the high ground. They do have range now. And right now, Reynor's fighting without Lurkers. He's up against his own third that he had to rebuild from earlier. The army supply at a disadvantage. Serral has better upgrades. He has Lurkers. Reynor, I don't... Without Vipers or without Lurkers of your own, this is insanely hard to deal with. He's just going to give up the base. Is there anything else on the map? Not really. Gets through one or two sets of Lurkers, but taking so much damage of his own. Serral actually picks up and backs off. Maybe feeling like Reynor's going to have, I don't know, well, a bit of an awkward burrow there. Loses another Lurker. And Reynor actually streams a bunch of roaches into Serral's third. Serral backing off when maybe he had the opportunity to move forward. Probably scared of just the sheer Roach Ravager count and losing the critical mass of Lurkers. If you have Lurkers with Hive Tech upgrades and can build Vipers, that's probably your best bet, even if it gives your opponent a little bit of time to breathe. Reynor is actually ahead in drones and supply, though. He's got Burrow on the way. Oh, he missed the last shot on the Obies. Overlords are still just patrolling like it's the easy AI trying to figure out what to spend 500 APM on. Roaches into the third. Reynor gets a Lurker, scampers out, gets two, gets three. Serral burrowing everything but the Lurkers, slipping here. Reynor still maintaining map control. The lurkers are the ones that are scared of the roaches, not the other way around. That's not how it's supposed to be. There is no detection here. This army is very disjointed. Another lurker. Serral not burrowing in time. Another. He's getting so many lurkers for just roaches. Oh, Reynor splitting. Actually just eating the lurker spines and dodging them. Oh, the greatest time for a pause is 15 minutes into the most dramatic game of Game 7 of the Grand Finals. Just, you know. Blazing right past. I'm sure this didn't stress anyone out. Well, Serral recovering, but Vipers have shown up to the party. 1, 2, 3, get over here! Vipers are out for Serral, but they don't have the energy to compete right now. Serral losing a lot of the fancy burrowing edges that he had. Down to 3, he's lost 15 lurkers. Reynor's lost 50 more roaches, but he's maintaining. Roaches are much more easily replaceable. Well, Corrosive Bile's still a very clunky army from Reynor, but he's making it look, it's essentially like a pirouetting bathtub right now. I don't know how he's doing it. Is that parasitic bomb on overlords? I've seen it all. Viper dragged in, but don't come back. The Corrosive Bile actually hits the Ravager, I think that cast it, as the Vipers just drag it out. Vipers, I don't know about consuming that particular hatchery, Reynor. The hatchery that's died twice now, he's sucking the life out of in order to maintain the rest of his. Reynor, of all the things, he's diving into the third. Blinding Cloud plus lurkers are going to make that difficult. I don't know about that one. Ooh, well, I guess he is right. If he ever gets attacked in a meaningful way again, he's still in a very precarious position. So, a single lurker. Serral. It seemed like Serral had a game-winning position. He had hive-tech lurkers against someone who wasn't even maxed with roaches. Reynor, the slipperiest player out there. Serral not willing to risk it. And Reynor now, he's closing in. This army isn't nearly large enough. Serral scrambling back with most of his actually good units. The lurkers are on the run outside of his base, just dropping Corrosive Biles even after losing his detection. But that is so many Vipers. Serral has maintained the Viper count, partially because Reynor has essentially no anti-air. Oh my god, both of them are having a competition to see who accidentally deletes their hatch with their Vipers. Reynor now building a lurker den. I don't know how he's still even in the game. Like, any other player would have already been dead. You can't wait 10 minutes to build a lurker den. That's just not how lurkers work. Well, the hostage exchange. Serral, unfortunately, with the Viper advantage, able to win it decisively, and now without Vipers, Serral has consolidated enough army supply. There's no burrow move on the roaches for Reynor. It's just the burrow for regen. Moving forward, the lurkers again. Corrosive Biles staggering back, trying to leapfrog as best he can. Losing detection as well. Serral has so many Vipers. Into the third. There's just so many lurkers. It's a horror movie here. There's nowhere to run but directly out. Serral starting to consolidate. I've been saying that for like 8 minutes, and somehow Reynor has not really let it come together. But he has Vipers with enough energy to press forward. The lurker counts at 13 to 0. Lurkers are on the northern base. Reynor is scrambling to put whatever he can on the table. He has next to no supply. Or he's not maxed out and next to no minerals. Getting his own lurker range. A couple lurkers of his own. Snipes one on the way across. Costs him a couple roaches. But the army was spotted. Here comes Serral. Staggering those lurkers. The Vipers exchange blinding cloud. Nobody can see anything. Lurkers scrambling past. Corrosive biles. Oh, actually hit the Vipers as well. But drags out the lurkers, the few that Reynor has. There's nothing on the other side of the map. Serral is a 30 army supply. He's knocking on the door of victory. And right now, Reynor on the cliff of defeat. It's only going to take a little bit more to push him over. Serral moves forward. Blinding Cloud negates most of the concave. Blinding Cloud on both sides. The DPS from Serral's army is too damn high. And Serral is a two-time world champion, a millionaire, and the winner of IEM Katowice 2022. Saving it all for the end. It almost looked like Reynor might drag it away from him until the last attack. But Serral holds the line. Wow. That was probably the most stylistic game of them all. Serral plays a safe, solid macro build. He works his way up the tech tree. Reynor does everything else. But it's not like Serral was passive. But he was defensive enough. And I don't know. Is he the greatest of all time? Is Serral with this? I think yes. My opinion is yes. Serral is the best player to ever play StarCraft 2. Especially today, but in its history. It's been 5 years. In 2018, in 2017 was when he really started breaking out. 5 years. Which is longer than Wings of Liberty and Heart of the Swarm combined for those of you who want to quote anyone from those eras. Maru? Serral made it look like he was smurfing against him in this tournament. Maru might rule the GSL, but Serral, the greatest StarCraft 2 player. Now, who's close? Who threatens him besides Reynor? I don't know. But a well-deserved world championship. I know I took my time in casting it. Honestly, I kind of wanted to forget exactly how the games went so I could enjoy them again, and I very much did. A lot more closely than the first time I was able to watch. And I hope you enjoyed as well. Thank you for watching. Like, subscribe, ring the bell, all that. I hope you enjoyed the finals and StarCraft 2 for years to come. Good luck, have fun. I'll see you next time. Stay chill.